Welcome to Positive Recovery MD. If you're listening, chances are you want to create happiness around you and thrive in your life. We're glad you're here and you've come to the right place. This podcast will inspire and motivate you to not merely survive your recovery journey, we'll give you the tools to build or strengthen your foundation to thrive and flourish in your life. Each week, we'll come together as a community to have authentic conversations around addiction, recovery, and what matters. Growth and progress, not perfection. All while developing positive habits for you to utilize in your life. To learn more, please visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to receive the daily positive interventions that we'll review, as well as gain access to exclusive Positive Recovery content available only to Positive Recovery MD listeners. All right, let's get started.
Good day, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another installment of Positive Recovery MD with one of your hosts, Dr. Jason Powers, joined by Julie DeNofa.
Hey, guys.
And an amazing friend of mine whose name is Mohit Khera. He's a physician too. I know him as Mickey. Nobody else does professionally. So if you hear that, you can call him Dr. Khera, Mohit, or Mo. I don't know anybody else but the five of us that kind of still refers to him that way, but it just shows how dear he is to my heart. And, Mo, let's keep it professional. The purpose of this podcast is twofold. One is to give hope to people. So sometimes we have people in recovery on this show, but a lot of times we don't. And their story in one way or another exemplifies one of the 24 universal character strengths that we try to help people see about themselves and use. That's what positive recovery is. I know you don't know a whole lot about it, but it's the application of the new science of happiness or positive psychology combined with effective and traditional approaches that have been existing in the addiction space for a while. And we sort of have something that's new, it's cutting edge, and it's evidence-based, and we do it because outcomes need to be improved. So we don't just spend time like looking at what's wrong with you. We actually do that, and we look at what's right with you. One of the universal character strengths that you embody to me is grit or perseverance. And if you don't mind, I know you know what I'm going to ask. Kind of like think about how you're going to start your story, and I'll introduce you. And it's really impressive. Dr. Khera earned his undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt. So he got a master's in business administration, and he got a master's in public health, both from Boston University. He got his medical degree from the University of Texas Medical School at San Antonio. Then he did urology, the Scott Department of Urology at Baylor. Then, after finishing a 6-year residency, he's not done yet. He did a 1-year fellowship, which was really competitive in male reproductive medicine and surgery at Baylor. Currently, he's a professor in the Scott Department of Urology at Baylor. He specializes in male and female sexual dysfunction and hormone replacement therapy. He serves as the director of the laboratory for Andrology Research and the medical director of the Baylor Executive Health Program and the medical director of the Scott Department of Urology. I mean, it just goes on and on. He's given over 200 lectures at scientific meetings. Every time I talk to him, he's either like catching 12 trains in India, or it's so impressive. He's published over 100 articles in peer-reviewed journals. He's completed 15 book chapters. And I could go on and on. The guy is a rock star. We're lucky to have you. So welcome, Dr. Khera.
Thank you, Jason. And before we get started, I have to say something. Thinking about this. So I met Jason when I was a 6th grader. Jason was a 7th grader. Thought that 35 years later, we'd be doing this. But it's pretty cool. And thank you so much for having me on the show.
Dude, my pleasure. I know. Here's another thing I'll squeeze in because I talk a lot, which is great for a podcaster, I guess. But I definitely want to hear your story. We do something in positive psychology and a positive recovery called a positive introduction, where you tell people you at your best. Mine's a story about how, like, when my brother died and I sort of experienced community for the first time, and it made me a better healer. And when we went camping, I mean, we've been friends our whole lives, but we don't see each other enough. There's like 5 of us. We went camping, I don't know, about 10 years ago now. And man, you told me your positive introduction. You didn't know that's what it was, but I thought I knew you. I thought I knew everything about you, because when you're friends and you go through puberty and you just know each other's soul. So when we're around each other, it's just so authentic. And when you told me the story that hopefully you'll tell us, I had goosebumps. I mean, I really did. I was just so impressed. I did not know that about you, just where this passion came from. And you, like my wife put it perfectly, you are the Michael Jordan of medicine.
You're too kind.
So tell us, is that okay? Can I ask you, like,
yeah, absolutely.
How did you get to the point you are now? I mean,
yeah,
we went to private school. I mean, you went to straight Jesuit. I went to St. John's, and then you went to Vanderbilt, which is like, woo, in Nashville. And Garth, Dr. Davis, who we had previously, he and I we got in med school on our first shot. And I knew you wanted to be a doctor. Your brother's a doctor. Your dad's a doctor. So tell us, like, what was the road for you on the road to being a doctor?
So let me tell you. So thank you, Jason. And so I went to Vanderbilt University, and I graduated in 1993. I was a pre-med major. And when I graduated and I wanted to go to med school, I did not get into med school when I first applied. And it wasn't that I didn't have good grades. I mean, it was just I didn't get in. So I said to myself, what do I want to do? And I thought, okay, I always like to go into business. Let me go to business school and see how it works out. I went to business school at BU. They did a healthcare management program. I worked for 2 years as an analyst. But the whole time, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. And every year I'm applying, and every year I'm not getting in to medical school. So I had a couple options. So maybe I should be a lawyer. I looked at every other option I could, but in my heart, I absolutely knew I wanted to become a doctor. So I persevered. I mean, it wasn't until 1993 when I got accepted. 1996 when I got accepted to University of Texas in San Antonio. There's a lot of lessons that I learned, and I think one of them is that you never give up. Jason, if you look at all the successful people in the world, if you look at them, they have one very common thing: they never give up. You can knock them down as many times as you want. They always seem to get up, right? And it's an incredible characteristic to have. Now, I tell everyone, if you get up and do the same thing, you're probably going to get the same result, right? So when you get up, you need to do something different, because a law of nature is do the same thing, you get the same result. So you have to persevere, and you have to keep fighting. So, I remember I was in Boston, and we have this advisor, and the advisor said to me, he's the one person that's supposed to actually help you get in to medical school. And he helps you and mentors you. And he sat down with me and he said, look, I just want to let you know something. I don't think you can do it. I think you should do something else. And I still remember the second he said that is the second I said, I am absolutely going to do it. And everything happens for a reason. I tell my kids there are two motivators in life, two big motivators. It's either fear or it's hunger, right? Fear or hunger. Each one can motivate you. And I think hunger is a much better motivator when you're hungry, because, the reality is that if this didn't happen, I graduated top in medical school, AOA, top, and I would have never done that. I mean, when I got there, I said, I am so lucky to be here. I'm going to kill it. And that's what I did. The hunger of wanting to have something so badly really drives you. So I think, that's something that really has stuck with me. I think that, remember that everything happens for a reason. If I didn't go to Boston, I would have never met my wife, which is huge. Never would have developed the hunger. I would have never developed the skills to take on adversity, because you got to fall down to learn how to stand up. I mean, you really have to take those hits, and it makes you much stronger. There's a poster I have in my house, and it's of Muhammad Ali. And I love what he says on there. So Muhammad Ali says that life is just like boxing. There's nothing different. Life is just like boxing. And he said, you don't lose if you fall down in boxing. You don't lose. You lose if you don't get back up. Right? It's true. You can fall down as many times, but as long as you get back up, it's only when you stay down is when you lose. Right? So you have to keep getting up. And so I think that really stuck with me. A lot of times, even your friends and family will say, they're saying that you should probably do something else because they love you and they think that they don't want you to get hurt. Right? And so even the close people next to you say, hey, I think maybe you should consider doing something else, but you got to stick to your dreams. You got to keep fighting. You got to keep fighting.
Didn't you not tell anybody that last year that you applied because you were just tired of telling people that you didn't get in?
Yeah, I just think my parents were, just like, hey, it's okay. And people were just so worried, like they almost feel bad for you. You know what I mean? But you just have to put that aside. You have to really put that aside and stay focused.
Are you familiar with like growth mindset or fixed mindset?
Tell me about it.
So you embody totally a lot of what we teach people. So people with a fixed mindset think, okay, you get what you get and that's it. Like you're born with a certain set of traits or IQ and it doesn't really, that's kind of it. So people are either dumb or stupid. A growth mindset person sees failures as opportunities to learn. They think they can improve their IQ and they can. And the thing is that perspective is malleable. There's these awesome, I love psychological experiments because they have to trick you. So they have these Confederates in the study and, they gave people something to read where, it was about a famous person and half of the group read that they achieved success because of how smart they were. And the other half read they achieved success because of how hard they worked. So smart or hard work. So the smart's the fixed mindset, growth mindset. And then they asked the groups, do you guys want to take a super hard test you're sure to fail at, but you'll learn something? Or do you want to take an easy test that you're sure to do really well at? And so the people that read, that were primed with the fixed mindset, took the easy way out. And so it didn't matter what they had coming in. And so it's something, so people can learn from you, from Muhammad Ali, from, Michael Jordan. And another thing you teach your kids, which is grounded in goal setting theory, is people have goals that are either approach goals, hunger, or avoidance goals, fear. And so forever in my field, relapse prevention was really highlighted in almost all there was. Relapse prevention is fear. It's an avoidance goal. But what's an approach goal? How you develop your character strengths. What do you really want in life? And I think you can't only have one. But go ahead.
So you nailed it. So 2 comments. So if you think about motivators and drivers, hunger and fear, if I work with fear, you tend to do the bare minimum to where you won't get in trouble, right? When you have the hunger as a motivator, you want the world. You will go as far as you can to get more and more and more to achieve, right? So hunger to me is a much better motivator than fear, wanting something. And when you said about when something bad happens, you have a couple choices. Something bad happens to me. You can say, why is this happening to me? This is the worst thing ever. This is terrible. Or you can say, what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn out of this to make me better? Right? This is just a lesson. What am I going to get out? What are you going to give me out of this to make me a better person? This bad thing happened. Okay, it happened, but I'm going to learn something from this to make me stronger. That is really important. I say to my kids, what did you learn to make you stronger today? What did you learn? Who cares if something bad happened?
Right.
At the end of the day, what did you learn to make yourself stronger? And these are building blocks, right? Because then you build and build and build. So I think it's really important is that we all will have bad things happen to us. How do you want to perceive it? Are you going to perceive it like this is the end of the world? Or, okay, what are you teaching me? What are you teaching me? So it's the mindset of what is happening when you see that negative thing happening. So I think that mindset is really important.
Yeah,
really, really important. And I think also that, look, a lot of things are coming in your direction. We call them bullets, right? You got stress at work. You got this. We call it bullets. The best way to fight back is to optimize yourself, build your shield, right? You got to build your shield, right? How do you build your shield? So I tell even my patients, there's 4 ways to build your shield, and you got to do this. It's diet, exercise, sleep, and stress reduction. Each one independently, if you chose one, would change your entire life. Could you imagine if you did all 4? There's not a pill on the planet that's stronger than diet, exercise, sleep, and stress reduction. Because at the end of the day, when you have those on board, those big mountain problems look much smaller, right? But if you're not sleeping, you're not eating, you're not exercising, and you have a high level of stress, little things look like mountain problems, right? Diet, exercise, sleep, and stress. Every day when you wake up, you say to yourself, what did I do today to improve my diet, exercise, sleep, and stress? What are the things I did today to improve my diet, exercise, sleep, and stress?
Oh my God, dude. Are you familiar with what's that political poll that always gets the presidency? The Gallup poll.
Gallup poll.
Okay, Gallup. So Tom Rath and his grandfather started that. Tom Rath is like a really the most on the Amazon list. Every year he's like the best-selling author. So he wrote a book called Eat, Move, Sleep. He's got 3 of those that you talk about. Eat, move, sleep, exercise, sleep, diet. I know what you're saying. I believe when you say stress reduction, I believe it's synonymous with what we call resilience, because stress isn't the problem. It's your perception of stress.
Right.
It's in this, we've been telling people stress is bad, stress is bad, stress is bad. And it's based on one study a long time ago where the rats were stressed because a huge organism was coming at them with a big, needle. And of course they went into fight or flight, but stress can also be good. It can indicate that you care about something.
Sure. But Jason, I think I agree with you, but think about this. If you keep adding and adding and adding things to your plate, at some point, there's a breaking point, right?
Right.
At some point. So I tell patients this. They say, I get the diet, exercise, sleep. Doc, what do you mean about stress reduction? What are you talking about? I say, okay, let's talk about this. Let's think about a very simple concept. I want you to make a list of all the things that you have to do every day. And I want you to do them because you have to do them. No problem. But I want you to make a list of all the things that you don't have to do every day that you do. And you'd be shocked at how big that list is. Stop doing them. If you don't have to do it, and stop it. Right? And you'd be shocked at dropping those things off your list, how much better your life is. You have no idea.
And you're a surgeon, and here you are. You sound like a combination of all the authors I've read to sort of hone my craft. What the hell? You're a surgeon. That's awesome.
I specialize in men's health and female health. And I specialize obviously in hormones, right? So I do a lot of hormone replacement therapy. But the reason you're coming in, I say, I can only give you 50%. I can optimize your medical. I can optimize your hormones. They expect to get the testosterone and all the problems are solved. No way. You meet me halfway. Diet, exercise, sleep, and stress. I'll meet you halfway and together we'll work. But it's not going to work with just I treat you and you expect the world to be great. You're eating potato chips, watching TV, not exercising. You got to help me.
Dude, Mickey, how many medical conventions that you're at in journals speak about that 50%? I don't hear surgeons talk about that. You and Garth, for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why we're good friends, but.
So we're siloed to think about if you're a cardiologist, heart, urologist, GU system. I mean, we're siloed and you really want to realize that it's the entire thing, right? And so it's very hard sometimes to get out of your silo and think about the entire system, but there's multiple factors. But once I started pushing the diet, exercise, sleep, and stress reduction, my outcomes started improving significantly with my patients, like significantly, right?
I bet.
So it's a team approach and it makes a huge difference.
That's awesome. So let's use your specialty to just briefly go through, like, people listening, like what could be some side effects of long-term. We'll start with alcohol.
So look, alcohol, opioids, they all can have an effect on men's health. And the 4 areas that they have an effect on, first of all, are testosterone levels. So one of the number one causes of low testosterone in the world is opioid ingestion. So within 4 hours after taking an opioid, you see a significant decline in testosterone. What does that result in? Low energy, low libido. I wrote a huge paper on depression. You get erectile dysfunction, and so poor sleep. And so you see a significant change in their entire body in terms of these symptoms. So these patients are taking opioids. They drop their T levels very low, below 200, but they don't realize
that's the cause, right? So that's
the cause. And so we show that you can replace the T levels in these patients and significantly improve their symptoms. It's been shown before, but a lot of these patients don't realize that the low T is causing a significant amount of depression. The opioid itself is causing a depression. The opioids is causing erectile dysfunction. So that's one thing.
Wait,
the other is infertility.
Wait, sorry. Talk to me. Okay, on the low T from chronic opioid use, is that permanent? Like, does somebody always need to be on replacement?
So the longer they're on the opioid and the older they are, will take longer for them to recover. And just because you recover your testosterone level doesn't mean you're going to recover it back to baseline. So if I start at a great testosterone level 600, you drop it down to 150, I stop the opioids, I may go up to 400, 450. So I'm not as good as I used to be, right? And so you can't say just stop the opioids. I mean, sometimes you can't stop the opioids sometimes, right? So we have to work around it sometimes. And so essentially we have to give them the testosterone back, significant improvement in their quality of life in many of these patients. Energy, libido, sexual function, depression, and sleep, right? Increased fat deposition, decreased muscle mass. But many patients they're taking opioids. They don't realize that, so we tell other primary care physicians, someone's on opioids, at least check the T level, at least check it, because they have a high chance, 74% chance of having a low T level, right?
Yeah, Julia, I was seeing so much of it. And then I called Dr. Khera and was like, what the hell's going on? And he said it's the number one cause of low T. And in America, where we use 95% of the world's hydrocodone supply.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not a fake thing. It's not like men are just trying to regain their youth. Like, this is legitimately, it's a big problem. The opioid epidemic doesn't just extend to addiction. I mean, low T is palpable, and giving them replacement, or in some harder cases, sending them to Dr. Khera, they are the most grateful people. It's sort of like an addiction. So yeah. Okay. Sorry. Keep going.
Very grateful, Jason. And so I agree. And I think it's something that we just need to be aware of in patients, even chronic alcohol use. So remember this. So when the testicles see about 40 grams of alcohol per day, there starts being irreversible or testicular damage.
Right.
Remember, one drink is typically about 14 grams. So if you're doing 3 drinks a day, every day, you're getting testicular damage. And so remember, the testicles not only produce testosterone, but what do? They produce sperm, right? So infertility rates go up. So these patients cannot have children. It's difficult, right? So opioid use, alcohol use, typically greater than 3 drinks a day, can cause damage to the testicle. And so that's an issue. Other things that we worry about also are urinary symptoms. Remember, opioids paralyze the bladder. So it's essentially these patients can have difficulty urinating. Alcohol is a diuretic, and it's actually a stimulant to the bladder, so they can get overactivity of the bladder. So that's a concern as well. And then finally, erectile dysfunction. Right. So men who take opioids and use chronic alcohol are more likely to have erectile dysfunction, which can be very debilitating in their lives.
Do you see a lot of sequelae or like long-term effects from cocaine or methamphetamines?
We do. I don't see a lot of patients on cocaine and amphetamines. I do see a lot of patients on marijuana, alcohol, and opioids.
Okay,
that's predominantly what I see.
Marijuana also lowers T, right?
Lowers T because it's a toxin. Marijuana uses a testicular gonadotropin to the testicles and will decrease sperm production, and will also decrease testosterone production as well. So, when patients are using these medications, you got to think about other things that are going on in their lives, their fertility and their sexual function and their testosterone and their urinary symptoms. A lot of facets of men's health are significantly impaired in men who are using these recreational drugs and alcohol.
Julie, do you have any questions before I get to the lightning round?
No, do the lightning round. And I do have something at the end that I'd like to kind of tie up for both you and Dr. Khera.
And then we'll discuss the PI after this. So I'm going to ask you some questions, just whatever comes to your head. What is your favorite word?
Love.
And what is your least favorite word?
Hate.
What makes you happy?
My family.
What makes you sad?
Sometimes my family.
What sound or noise do you love?
Ocean.
And what sound or noise do you hate?
Traffic.
What's your favorite curse word?
Favorite curse word?
Alukapata.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a Hindi word. That's actually pretty good.
I've been meaning to say that in a sentence. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I love what the litigator lawyers do. I know it sounds crazy, but it's almost very like it's like war and chess, and you think it out. And we go back to a room, and those litigators, and when they go on, in the courtroom, I think it's such a cool field.
Awesome. What profession would you not like to do?
I don't know about that profession. It's hard to say. I think there's some tough professions that I've seen. I think oncology, pediatric oncology, is really tough. I mean, it's really tough. You have to have a super heart to do something like that, Yeah,
I know. Pediatric oncology.
Yeah.
Pediatric hospice.
Yeah, it's really tough.
Oh my God. Okay. So if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you're at the pearly gates?
That everyone down below is going to be okay.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you.
So I was going to just make a comment, Dr. Khera, when I heard a little bit about your story and your perseverance and kind of what our listeners might get from having you on today. I also got to hear it a little bit through Dr. Powers, kind of way of, seeing it because you guys have been friends for so long. Right. But having you here today, what I just want to say very briefly is that perseverance that got you through all that you got through, like this, getting into med school, whatnot, actually keep showing up in all that you're doing with your patients, even with your children. I kept hearing your story over and over, and in so much that when you said about growth mindset and the hunger piece, like that hunger that you talked about is collaborative. It brings people with you, and it helps us kind of build that with other people as part of, whereas when we're operating from a place of fear or scarcity, we tend to isolate, and we don't have the ability to share those same successes, and we're not afraid to do that when we're in that hunger state or that kind of collaborative state. So thanks so much for pointing all of that out for our listeners today. I loved hearing your story and hearing you talk today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah. So at Positive Recovery, we do positive interventions.
Yeah, jump right in.
The quote for the day is, whether you believe you can or you can't, you are right. And that's Henry Ford. So self-efficacy, a mixture of self-esteem and self-confidence, is an especially useful trait for recovering addicts. High self-efficacy can prevent relapse and improve happiness. And the good news is that anyone can learn to heighten this valuable characteristic. First, believe your life is in your hands. Second, believe you can either accomplish your goals or learn how to get them done. Third, see problems as challenges. Every chance you get, try out new things or learn new skills. Fourth, which Dr. Khera said so well, fall down and get up. To fail means an attempt made in a particular situation did not work. It does not mean you are a failure. Disappointments provide the opportunity to develop grit, a precious character trait that fuels the development of self-efficacy. So for today's positive intervention, we were focusing on when you are faced with fear, future events appearing real, or forget everything and run, say the serenity prayer. So for those of you who can say it along with us today, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Imagine that your problems are interesting challenges that grant you the opportunity to develop more self-efficacy. The more successful you become at navigating obstacles on the way to achieving goals, the more you will believe in your ability to succeed as future challenges arise. So for us, a lot of what we do and when we work with our patients here is we ask them to journal quite a bit, and it's very helpful. I don't know that if you use that in your practice, Dr. Khera, but I certainly know that a lot of what you spoke to today, you're giving to your patients. So I'm so glad to have met you and have had you today on our podcast.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, so I did the intervention. There's something I can't disclose the facts of, but needless to say, it's out of my control and it caused me a lot of fear. And I found myself getting like worked up. And then there was a story around a story around a story. And then all of a sudden I was like super frustrated and really like, okay, it could be justified or not. It doesn't really matter. And I just took a step back and I'm like, okay, can't do anything about it. Let me go and help somebody else. So I found somebody in the house where, there's like 18 people in my house right now. Easy to find somebody who I could have helped, got out of myself. And so the serenity prayer helped, but also so did distraction because I definitely needed it.
So for our listeners, so what you're saying is you said it was getting out of self, which so often is just simple to say, but really hard to do for folks. And so when people are really struggling to get out of self, doing something for someone else sometimes can make that easier. What are other suggestions that you would have?
Well, I was thinking that we don't pick guests according to what positive intervention we have. And the fact that, Dr. Khera's story and his personality, his approach to treating patients has so much to do with this intervention. If you're in the thick of it and you're already all worked up, it's really tough to kind of like stand outside yourself. But like what I did, it sounds easy, right? I said the serenity prayer and I distract myself. But mind you, I've had almost 18 years of practice. It was super tough at first. And it's going to be. And it's anytime, you learn a new skill, you're going to suck at it at first. Mozart wasn't Mozart. He was terrible. You don't get to Carnegie Hall the first time you sit at a piano, and you don't get like high level emotional sobriety or good resilience immediately. Right. And there's certain contexts that it may not happen. But I would say that like keep practicing these tools. Like the serenity prayer is a great tool. Leaning on others and talking about your problems. And, we borrow from Brene Brown's Shame Resilience work with marble jar friends. Like, who are the friends that sort of add to the relationship? When you're around them, you feel more trust and energized. These are called marble jar friends. And, like you're one, Julie. And like, if there's, if our asses are falling off, we can just say, hey, marble jar moment. Or I don't even know if we say that as much anymore, but basically we know, okay, I'm here. And just sometimes talking about it helps. right? Like patients that I have, I find it amazing that relapse after relapse after relapse. And then for some reason, they just start expressing, hey, I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. I'm like, great. That's not great. Yes, it is. You can't get anywhere if you don't know where you are. And if
that self-awareness kind of comes in.
Right. Yeah. And admitting this type of powerlessness is not powerless. It's empowering, because saying, I don't know, I need help is really empowering. And so that's what it's all about. But keeping it to yourself and like, okay, I can't admit that, or I'm ashamed, like that doesn't allow you to heal.
So when someone's sitting in a whole bunch of shame, what's the number one thing that you tell them when they're just sitting in a big pile of shame shit? What do you tell them?
Okay. I say, man, I hate when I feel that way, because the truth is I do. And like, that sucks. And I get shame attacks. But the second thing I would say is mantra. Like, my self-esteem or, my self-worth is not on the table. It's not negotiable. Like, I do belong and I'm good enough, to borrow again from Brene Brown's work, but I'm good enough and I do belong. And like, shame will tell you that you're not good enough and you don't belong. And, Robert Hilliker is a friend who was the chief clinical officer for Brene's for many years. He's the one that's like, my self-worth is not on the table. It's not negotiable. And when he says that, I'm like, I was a little afraid to hear it, because it's empowering. I do. Like, my sponsor, or, Greg Metcalf, when I would call him in a shame attack, he would say, man, I hate that. And at first I was like, dude, that's not good advice. What do you mean you hate that? But really, just having somebody empathize was good. Great to see you, Mickey.
Great to see you, Jason.
Love you, man. Thank you for spending your time with us. And we are signing out. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Positive Recovery MD. Don't forget to visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to get your daily positive intervention sent straight to your inbox. Be sure to subscribe to Positive Recovery MD on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts to receive an automatic download when a new episode drops. And as always, if you or someone you know needs help, visit positiverecovery.com or call 877-4SOBRIETY, which is 877-476-2743. We are here to help.